So I want to challenge you guys to go out today and look around you at the people, at society, and things, and see how the deck's kind of stacked against you and setting you up to lose. And you got to take ownership of your own situation. I preach on here that you guys don't blame anyone else for your failures, your shortcomings, or your problems. You got to take accountability and fix these things yourself. But I want you guys to notice and look around at how easy it is to slide into gluttony and to slide into degeneracy and things like that. It's so easy nowadays, far easier than it's ever been in history, to fall off track and to make mistakes and to just get into your comfort zone and screw your life up. And I always start everything with fitness and health because I think that's the most important thing, and it's the first one that slips. And it's the biggest problem we have. Go to Walmart, man. Go to a Walmart in your area and walk around and just be observant of the state of normal people. That's where all the normal people shop, right? The normies all shop at Walmart or even Target or wherever, any store, anywhere. And just take note and notice the people and what physical condition they're in. And it didn't used to be like that. It didn't, once you awaken up to it and you open your eyes and you look around, it's staggering how out of shape people are. And I was out of shape. I was bad out of shape for a while. And, you used to be, long time ago, if you were going to get out of shape, and even in some other places in the world today, you had to actually try. You actually had to work hard to get fat. Used to be the rich or the noble or whatever, the nobles, the hierarchy, those were the people who were typically fat because they enjoyed the spoils of their riches, right? They were able to live decadent lifestyles. And the poor, the normal, the regular people, the peasants, whatever you want to call it, they were the skinny people. They were the impoverished, eating regular, normal food, working hard, putting in labor. And so they were always, skinny or lean or slender, whatever, thin, whatever you want to call it. But now we have access to things that regular people didn't used to have access to. People's normal day to day is eating like crap. What was used to be a treat for most of us, a once in a while random occurrence that would get you excited, people eat multiples of that every day. By the truckloads, it seems like. It's just become the norm. It's become so easily accessible, and so we're so abundant with different processed foods, garbage foods, that anybody can eat them anytime they want. And it almost feels like, not to get into deep dive conspiracy anything, but it makes you wonder why this stuff is so abundant all of a sudden. Why is it so easy and so accessible for just regular people to be able to gorge themselves? I remember when I was new to Twitter back in the day, and before I was watching, I used to, this got me onto the Joe Rogan podcast. Way before that, I only knew him as the Fear Factor guy, the guy from news radio and stuff. Dating myself here. He put out a tweet a long time ago, and it said, "Poor people are fat now. Think about that." And that got me really wondering. It's like, man, that's true. And that got me, I searched him, found out he had a podcast, and I was a Joe Rogan listener for a long time. Now, everybody's on that train now. I don't really listen to him anymore. But that's where I kind of was, the first little nugget of opening my eyes up a little bit to what's happening around us, what's happening in the world, and the way certain decadence and degeneracy and things like that are being allowed to become the norm these days. And I went, huh. And that didn't change. That one little tweet didn't change anything. I still, I think I was getting out of the, retiring from the Air Force around that time. And I kind of got out, got lazy, allowed myself to do that. Not that I was ever poor, but, being a regular, normal guy, I was able to quickly gorge myself and create bad habits into becoming a fat person, which is what I was. And, that's my mistake. I own it. It's my fault. And I've worked hard to climb out of that hole and rectify that. And that's why I make these videos, is try to help you guys do the same thing. But that's the first little nugget of truth bomb that made me start thinking about it and start wondering what's going on. And then, especially when you start losing the weight and you start working really hard, and you do have to actually work hard now to get into shape. It's kind of this weird thing to what should be your body's baseline. You actually have to put in work to keep at it and fight off societal temptations and things like that are so baked into us now and so normal, that you have to actually set yourself apart from the pack to actually maintain that, to even maintain fitness. And I'm not saying it's a hard thing to do, especially if you're already there, but there's a way to slip up at every turn. Easy now. Parents are starting to feed their kids horrifically processed foods, just garbage food at such a young age, and developing habits at such a young age, that it actually does become difficult just staying at what a human should look like and feel like, and how long we should live and things like that. And, not having just these horrifying medical consequences and things that people are facing today, and having to get on certain drugs just to get back to a normal human configuration, right? Because it's everywhere. Bad food's everywhere. Even you can't even go to work. I have seen donuts at work 3 to 4 times a week in some cases. Donuts for everybody. Enough donuts that everybody could have some. And, like me, I'm turning the donuts down every time. So that frees up some people to have multiple donuts at work multiple days a week. When I first started working, somebody might bring donuts in once a month, something like that, and enough for everybody to have one and everybody would indulge. Now it's gotten to the point where it's like office donut culture. Or, people making these food runs and just getting fast food garbage or whatever the case may be. Potlucks at work where everybody's just going out and getting different fast food and bringing it in. That's kind of the society, the culture we're building for ourselves, and we have to fight against that stuff. We have to realize, like, okay, this is something that's, I don't know if I'd say being forced upon us, but it's definitely becoming like the main option. And you actually have to be different than everybody else. How many of you are bringing meal prepping and bringing your food into the office and getting a side eye from all your coworkers, or dealing with a snarky comment about, oh, Mr. Healthy over here, enjoy your broccoli and chicken, or what if you're into the bodybuilding type diet, or if you're like a carnivore diet guy, like I kind of am, a low carb, animal based practitioner like I am. You're bringing in your ground beef and things like that, and people are like, oh, there he is again, same old thing. Meanwhile, we're gonna go on a McDonald's run, or a Subway run, or a Chick-fil-A run, or whatever. You know, how many of you guys face that? And that used to be a thing you treated yourself. It was called a treat. I remember for us when I was a kid to go to McDonald's. Like, I remember almost the McDonald's trips I went on when I was a kid are like seared into my memory because they were so infrequent. And now people are eating it every day. And it's not like the prices are super low or anything. I hear people complain all the time about how the prices of these places are going up. You know, I don't really know. I don't eat there that often. If I do end up going to McDonald's, I'm just getting beef patties, which are actually, it's pretty cost effective. But they're still going. They're addicted to it. They're addicted to the process, the products that are going in the food, the sugars and all these kind of things. The stuff's, you know, food now is engineered to be addictive. And people eat these meals every day. Even guys that are like, I'm going to start getting in shape, and they come in, and I've seen dudes eat a whole meal of like protein bars and Quest chips and things like that. And it's like, my God, man, are you going to eat some real, like real food? Like, eat some beef, eat some chicken, whatever it is, whatever floats your boat, you know what I mean? And once you start seeing it, you can't unsee it. You notice it everywhere. And, you know, I'm not telling you guys to be judgmental or anything like that, but just open your eyes up and notice it. You know, pay attention to what people are eating and what they look like. And I know there's outlier guys out there that are insane metabolism and can eat whatever they want. We all know that guy, and stay pretty lean, pretty in shape. But that bill does come due at some point. So it's like, man, we need to wake up and start noticing this stuff and start at least asking questions. Why is this happening? Why is it so easy? Why is everybody getting out of shape and not even realizing it? They don't even, like, I remember one day getting on the scale and being like, have I really let this happen to me? And I should have, you know, it's something I take full ownership of that. I should have known that I should have paid attention to my weight, and it's creeping up and creeping up and creeping up. It takes years. It doesn't take it's not like you wake up one day and you're fat. People just don't tend to notice it until it's become a problem. But it's been becoming a problem for a long time. You know, or they go to work and they're sitting under the fluorescent lights all day, and they're getting tasked in doing things that really don't even mean anything. You know, a lot of these meaningless, you know, laptop jobs and stuff like that. And they come home and they're exhausted. They've gotten no sunlight all day, just artificial light all day. Busy doing, let's face it, a lot of it's BS work. They're stretching it out for as long as they can, clicking buttons, typing, whatever. And they're not drinking any water. You know, they're chugging coffee all day, trying to just stay awake. Coming home, shuttling kids to obscenely priced travel sports teams and stuff like that. My kids played sports. I encourage you to have your kids play sports if that's their thing, you know what I mean? But don't get me started on these travel teams, how much it costs and how much, you know, work is required as a parent to do these types of activities and stuff like that. and they don't have time to go work out, or they refuse to make the time to work out, and that's not even counting the doom scrolling and the getting on the phone, the pocket computer, right? The pocket supercomputer, which we all have at our disposal. And that's a great tool, or it can be. If harnessed the right way, having your phone is almost a superpower. You've never had access to so much information in a device in your pocket ever in history. There's so much information out there and so many things you can learn and then put into practice. A lot of you do actually go out and learn, but you just get in this perpetual cycle and this continuous loop of just reading and learning and absorbing content and not actually taking any action with it. But that's using it the wrong way. Or you're getting on social media and looking at, I don't want to use cat videos. Everybody uses that as an example, but the doom scrolling. Keeping up on your sports teams. I'm not one of these guys that comes on here and screams at you about stop watching sports. If you enjoy watching sports, I enjoy watching football and stuff like that. But I'm not, staying constantly feeding that dopamine hit of what's going on with every sports team at any given moment, or what your not even local, federal, whatever politicians are up to, what kind of things are going on, doom scrolling political stuff. I recommend staying away from political stuff. Most of that's out of your hands anyway. You're not in that club. They like to present you with the whole concept that you make a difference and stuff like that. And maybe you do a little bit, but at the end of the day, what's going to happen is going to happen. And I preach focus on yourself. If you got to keep yourself informed a little, but the biggest problem you need to fix is under your own roof, for the most part. That phone can be a big problem for most people. For a few people, it's a powerful tool. You can create content with it. You can learn things with it. You can do just about anything with a phone. You can literally build an empire with your phone. But let's be real, the majority of people aren't doing that. They're using it as a time waster. It is as effective as a time waster, if not more so, than it is as a powerful tool. And that's how most people are using it. Free access to other degenerate content. You guys know what I'm talking about, adult content. It's free. It's free. Dudes used to have to shame themselves. Used to have to make a walk of shame to get access to adult content, to degenerate content that's now free on the internet. Not just for you, free for your kids. There's no age. They try to say, do enough to make it appear that there might be an age restriction. Are you 18? No. Yeah. The kids are absorbing adult content at such a young age. I read somewhere that kids are freely viewing it regularly in third grade, I think. I can't exactly remember. It was a shockingly young age. An age where you'd be they're not even thinking about it at this point. It's not even on their radar yet, and the kids are already checking it out. And if you have it all blocked at home, and you know basic enough about computing and networking and things like that, and you can block that stuff at home, which is actually pretty easy to do. They're still going to school, and their friends have their phones at school. Don't think they're not showing it to them. I didn't get exposed to adult content at home when I was a kid. First time I ever saw any adult content in a magazine form was at school. A kid brought it to school. My first exposure to that. And like I said, it was so infrequent and such an irregular occurrence that like that memory is seared in here, because it just wasn't a thing that happened very often. But now kids, if you have it blocked at home, they're going to school and they can see it every day if their buddy shows it to them or whatever. You know, you've got to think about that stuff. That's why I'm also an advocate for homeschooling. And then like gambling's another one. When I was a kid, that was done in casinos. It was kind of, or there was like, you heard about it. You know, a guy would have an addiction going to a casino or a horse race or whatever it is, and you know, maybe your parents, like, you know, we had our town degenerate gambler or whatever. The town I grew up in was pretty small. Everybody knows everybody type of a deal. Where, you know, my dad or somebody my grandfather would point out, like, oh, there's the town gambler. You know, there's a few of them. Let's be real here. You know, I grew up in a town with a lot of casinos and opportunities for gambling and stuff like that. But, you know, betting, sports betting, gambling, all this kind of stuff has become such a normal thing that there's commercials for it on TV. There weren't commercials for gambling on TV when I was a kid. I remember the pro leagues and college leagues and stuff like that were all so anti-gambling and stuff like that. It's nice of them to put a little disclaimer at the end of it with the little 1-800 whatever addiction number, right? How nice of them to throw that on there when after showing you this, you know, just absolute glorious, expertly produced, mass marketed gambling addiction or gambling, you know, commercial for BetMGM or DraftKings or whatever, all these different gambling sites. So I just want you guys to take notice of that how the world has changed and the stuff that's being pushed on you. Watch movies. If you watch modern movies, especially things that have come out since like 2015, 2016, look at the messages. Look at how men are portrayed. Look at how the imbalance to how men are portrayed versus, you know, women are portrayed. Read between the lines. That's all I'm saying. Just take a deep look at these things, because it almost feels like we're at war here. You know, we're trying to keep our head above water and fight through all this slop and all this crap, all this degenerate, gluttonous, you know, ungodly, let's call it what it is, behavior. Not to get super religious on you guys or anything, but that's I can't think of any other way to put it. You know, so I just want to see you guys rise above this stuff. I want to see you bring your families up above this stuff. If you struggle with these things, you know, start focusing your energy on how to get around it, how to get through it. You know, we all have our things we struggle with. We're all human. We're all susceptible to different stuff if your eyes aren't open. So keep your eyes open. It's dangerous out there. Eat right. Get in the gym. You know, eat nutritious food. Don't eat garbage. Don't allow this steady stream of garbage into your mouth and into your mind. Hit like, hit subscribe. Leave me a comment. Definitely leave me a comment on this one. Hit me up. I'll post my my X account, Twitter account, whatever you want to call it, down there, and send me a DM if you need help with anything. And I'll talk to you guys in the next one later.